Welcome to the Dark Reading News Desk here at Black Hat USA 2025. Terry Sweeney, contributing editor with Dark Reading, and joining me now is Todd Moore, Global Vice President of Data Security at Thales. Todd, thanks so much for joining us on the Dark Reading News Desk.
It's a pleasure. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
We are talking about trust and the cloud in the age of AI. Let's start with a broad question with regard to how the rise of AI has accelerated cloud adoption and changed the threat landscape for enterprises that are handling sensitive data. What's the deeper story there?
No, it's a great question. So, I mean, with AI, the advent of AI, generative AI, we did a data threat report this past year where we talked to a bunch of CISOs around the world about where they're spending their money. And it's amazing how many CISOs are investing in AI simply because they want to keep up with the competition. It's almost like keeping up with the Joneses. You know, you have to make sure that if someone's implementing AI, I got to do the same. And whenever you do something very quickly like that, very fast, you make mistakes. And so I think from a security perspective, we're seeing that the adoption of AI is creating a lot of gaps, security gaps, just in terms of the data itself, being able to protect what's important to you, no matter where that exists. And a lot of that data is finding its way into the cloud. There's also other studies that would say that AI is creating 90% of all the unstructured data today. You know, so all those video files, those chat logs, those pictures, all that stuff is being created by AI, and it has to go somewhere. And it's going in the cloud, it's going on-premise and all over the place, and it's just leaving, you know, a large exposure from a vulnerability perspective for customers and for all of us today.
I mean, it feels like we're in an AI arms race, and the frenzy to be innovative, to be the first, to get out front with it is such that security has become definitely an afterthought.
Absolutely. It's almost about like 15 years ago when cloud was first introduced, or 20 years ago. Everybody did that first race to the public cloud, and security became an afterthought. So I think the best practice that we tell a lot of our customers and partners is you really have to, put that security in first. It's the same principles that we've always done around data security. It's really understanding what's important to you, discovering that, protecting it, controlling it throughout its life cycle, but most importantly, it's the monitoring aspect. That's the piece that we're seeing more and more that's an important piece, is visibility. Understanding where your data is being created, where it's going. And with AI, sometimes you just don't know.
Sure.
And so it's really getting an arm around where the data is and reducing the data leakage that goes around with data flowing and all those different elements.
Well, ironically, global regulators are tightening the frameworks around data privacy in tandem with this rise of AI.
Yeah.
How are organizations rethinking, say, their encryption strategies in the cloud and their data storage in general?
Yeah, so well, geopolitically, a lot of things are happening around the world, and a lot of folks are taking a look at what's data privacy, those data regulations, making sure that data stays within the confines of a country or within an organization. And so there is a lot of thought given now in terms of making sure that what's important to you is protected. Encryption is a good protection mechanism, and every SaaS vendor, every cloud service provider offers encryption as a tool. But it's important to note that organizations aren't using one cloud service provider, using multiple clouds, and there's so much data still on premise. And so it's really important that when you think about digital sovereignty, is being able to use what's available to you. From a shared responsibility perspective, making sure that you're putting the controls in place to use external key management, being able to have centralized key management for those encryption activities across all those multiple clouds, as well as the on-premise activities. So it's really getting control of your data again, making sure that you're managing it consistently across all those different environments that you're working in. So to give you that sovereign control. Yeah.
With this emphasis on encryption, encryption was often reserved for the most sensitive data, just because of the performance hit that encrypting and decrypting would require of organizations. Has that changed? Has that just become like the cost of doing business?
Well, I think there was, years ago, there was this idea of encrypt everything, and that really is not, very beneficial from a business perspective. So I think there is some aspects of not all data is created equal, and you do want to encrypt what's most important to you. Performance-wise, encryption's math. So, don't get too bothered on encryption. Encryption's math. It gets implemented in a lot of different ways, fast, slow. People can work through the mechanisms of encryption. What's most important about protection and encryption is identifying, it is that visibility of what's most important to you, and then deploying the appropriate centralized key management and control of those encryption activities. So native encryption is a great way to protect information in SaaS applications and in cloud environments, but make sure you're handling the keys external from that SaaS application, that database, that cloud environment, so that you do have that control that if you want to delete that information, you delete the encryption key.
Okay.
So the encryption hasn't evolved from a technology perspective, but I think it's being deployed almost everywhere, and it's being deployed judiciously where it needs to be.
Sure. And that processing piece has become just negligible. So
That's right. Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
You alluded to AI a few minutes ago. Obviously, we're seeing more sophisticated AI-driven attacks. What specific challenges do these pose for cloud security teams, and how can they prepare for them?
Yeah, it's becoming a huge problem. I think that mentioned it earlier, but visibility. I think that's become really the moderating factor, the normalizing factor. Knowing where things are and getting that visibility, it's so powerful. And so there's tools out there today, and there's tools being developed that really gives you visibility of where your data is in cloud, SaaS applications, as well as on-prem environments. Not having that visibility really makes a problem for you because you don't know how to protect information if you don't know where your data is. Now, people have been trying to discover their sensitive data for years now, and no one's been able to do it 100%. But the tools are getting better. And I think that the technology, leveraging AI itself, is getting better to be able to find what's critical to you. And once you've identified that, then you can start applying the appropriate protection mechanism. And that's the most important part. A lot of organizations, they find out where their sensitive data is, they understand the risks around it, but they don't know what to do next. And so you have to have a full data lifecycle strategy so that once you've identified the critical data and you understand the risks around that, what do you do next? How do you protect it? It could be encryption, we talked about. Right. It could be tokenization, it could be masking, it could be deletion, it could be quarantining. There's a lot of different actions you can take to protect your information.
Okay. With organizations that are now using, say, hundreds of SaaS applications in some instances, what are some of the biggest gaps that you're seeing in their cloud security postures, and how can CISOs go about closing those gaps?
Again, SaaS applications are so important to our daily lives. We all use them, our social media apps, and productivity tools. And there's so much information in those tools that need to be protected. I think that, again, there's visibility, understanding what's in those applications. There are mechanisms given by the SaaS vendors themselves to protect information and fields within those applications, and so you need to leverage those. If those tools are made available to you, leverage them. I would tell a CISO, if you're using a database or a productivity tool application, like Gmail, for example, what can you do to protect sensitive data within a mail server, for example? So that's there. The other piece that gets forgotten, and we see growing, is API. Those applications have to talk to other applications.
Right.
And the idea is API security, and the fact that it really is data, true sensitive data flowing between applications through APIs. It's really understanding how applications are being used, how they're being interacted with, including agentic AI, for example. That they're going to want to talk to those applications as well. Understanding that communication mechanism, understanding how they're communicating, and making sure you're protecting those APIs is becoming more and more important today as we go forward.
Wow. Well, Todd, some great insights around visibility, data management, and data protection. Thanks so much for joining us on the Dark Reading News Desk.
This has been exciting and a pleasure. Nice to meet you, Terry. Appreciate it.
Todd.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Todd Moore of Thales. This has been Terry Sweeney with the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.